Good morning. I'm April Jackson, owner of Jackson Sewing Academy, as well as producer of Gown Wars. And I'm just about to start my Threads Challenge gown that I've decided I wanted to enter within the Threads Challenge. The theme this year is 4 elements. And as soon as I heard that, the first thing that came to my mind was I wanted to do a gown that represented fire. As an Aries, I'm also a fire sign, so that rings true to me. As well as when I think of fire, I think of being consumed, taking control and burning, but also just consuming your thoughts, consuming your desire. And when I get my heart set on a project like this, I'm consumed by it. As soon as I decide I want to do it, I keep thinking about it. Then I refine my thoughts, and then I look for more ideas to keep turning it and making it happen so that it becomes a reality and not just a thought in my head. So as soon as I had decided I was going to do the Threads Challenge, it was back in February. I started ordering elements on Wish that I'd seen. I had an idea of what I wanted my gown to look like. I love gowns, so that's why I wanted to choose a gown. And with a gown, I have enough material that I can relay the thought of being consumed. So I started ordering elements on Wish and DHgate to get some materials here already. And once they came, I went to the local fabric store to get the other pieces, coordinating satin and my linings, anything else that I could find that would help and that I would need to bring this to reality. Of course, once I have one idea in my head, sometimes I can't find all the elements that I really want. So I learned to be flexible. And that's something you've got to do in life anyways. It's just be flexible. Okay, how can I keep the same thought, but then tweak it? Just keep the same feel that I originally wanted to relay to the person viewing the outfit, but with the materials that I have right now. So I want to show you what I have started on my table and what I'm starting with and sort of what I have in mind. And I will take some videos along the way and some photos so that you can see how it's progressing and how I work, how my thought process goes. I'm not a designer per se. I do not know how to draft patterns, but I do know how to take patterns that are already made and tweak them to make my design. So I've started today with a pattern, and I'm going to show you the bases that I'm working with and then just walk you through the steps to show how my design called Consumed is going to come to life. Here on my sewing table, which also doubles as a pool table when we have guests over, I want to show you what I'm starting with. The pattern that I have chosen as my base is Vogue 8729. I liked the fact that it had the full skirt, and the bodice and the design lines are fairly simplistic, so it's going to allow me to alter it to suit my design. And this pattern does come with underskirt pattern. I am going to line the skirt fully, but I'm not going to do the underskirt. I'm actually going to either create, if I can't find one in time, or purchase a full crinoline, which will give the skirt the feel that I'm looking for. So for this pattern, I've only had to take out pieces 5 and 5A, which is the front and skirt back. Number 1, which is the bodice front, and 2, which is the bodice back. Now over on this part of the table, I have elements that I have chosen, so let me walk you through it. This particular material here, it's hard to see with this lighting. It is actually an orangey red, and I had ordered this, I think, on Wish. I'd ordered about, I think, 5 or 6 meters of it. It has this awesome line through it, just the way it reflects. It looks like it's on fire. I knew I wanted to use that somehow, And then I started ordering other elements off of Wish, because this way I can have them shipped to me, and if they didn't really suit my purpose, well, I'm not out a lot of money and I have something that I can always continue to work with. So I went to Fabricland, and then I had to find a material from an underskirt and the rest. So I found this beautiful satin that coordinates beautifully with my orangey red organza. And then I also found this black organza because I want to incorporate it somehow within my dress, just to give it more depth. Fire isn't just all one color, it's a lot of colors reflecting, so I want to give it more depth. So with my laces that I had purchased, I'm not sure exactly which one I'm going to use. I do have this lace that I love here that I ordered, and it has red, black, and white in it, and I could incorporate that somehow on my bodice. But I also have this other lace that I had purchased that I love, because it has the 3D flowers on it, and it has enough depth. It actually has some depth within it with a darker thread that will help bring out that depth that I'm looking for. So I have about 6 pieces of that. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to use for sure, but I also found these beautiful feathers. I watch a lot of old TV on Turner Classic Movies, and I'm just fascinated by how the fashions use feathers in so many elements. And these have that beautiful red with tinge of the black on the end. So I'd like to be able to use that somehow, probably within the bodice. I think with my skirt idea, it might get lost. So I'll use it somehow on the bodice, but I'm not sure either how that's going to work until it starts coming together. So these are the elements that I'm going to be starting with, and eventually it's going to be a finished dress. I'm starting today, Friday, July 31st. It's about 9:30 a.m. and it should take me a couple of days to get this dress done. The first thing I'm going to start with is I want to refine my pattern for the bodice. So I do have some muslin that I'm going to cut this pattern out, but when I cut it out, where this pattern has a deep V, I'm actually going to cut it higher so that it gives me the chance to shape and recut. What I'd like to is on the back of my model, who actually meet my model. This is Missy. She's my size 10-12 dress form. She's going to be what I'm going to be customizing this for. And on the back, what I would really like to have is, as it comes down, I'd like to have a bit of an opening where it'll have like flesh toned mesh in here. The reason I'm only doing a small piece of the mesh is because the only mesh I could get at my local store was this, and though it was the best of their lot, I'm not a big fan of the color. So I only want to use a small piece of it. I was going to use more of this if I could find something that was more of a beige, but just with my time frame and my selection availability, I couldn't do that. So I'm going to get started, and once I get working on the bodice, I will update you. I'd like to take a second to address patterns, fitting. I find that when I'm reading sewing forums, especially ones with beginners on it, experienced sewers make things sound really difficult. And my motto is everything's easy when you know how. And fitting a bodice and whatnot, it's really not that difficult. So I really want you to get that out of your head and start thinking a bit more simplistically. So I want to walk you through a couple of steps I'm doing here first. My dress mannequin, I measured her bust, her waist, the distance from her bust point here to her waist and at the back. And when I look at my pattern here on my pattern piece, I see that at the bust, if I were to make it on the size 12, it will be 36.5 inches exactly. Putting my zipper in, everything will work out to 36.5 inches. But my mannequin is 38 inches. Also, the waist measurement is 28.5. My mannequin waist is exactly 28. So I don't want to make it exactly to that. I want to add a little bit more so that this pattern is going to fit. Now, mind you, I'm also doing my muslin. On this pattern, you will see there is a strap in the front, and that strap actually comes from the back piece that overlaps over the shoulder and joins in the front here. I'm cutting my pattern out in that fashion and I'm going to pin it, but when I do my pattern, I don't want that seam there. I want my shoulder to be continued, but I'm going to work with this pattern that's already designed like that, and then I will adjust my muslin and I will show you how that goes. So what I'm going to do right now is I need to make this bigger. So what I'm going to do, if I need 2 inches overall, my dress form, she is fuller in the bust than through the back. So I do know I want to add extra in the front. So I'm going to add a little bit on the side seams. And then I'm also going to divide a little bit and put just a little bit more in the back seam itself here, because I'm going to be shaping that and recutting the whole back as it is. I just want to make sure it's going to fit her bust, and then also add a hair more to accommodate the little bit that I'm going to need for the waist measurement. So I'll probably take that in through the back also. Just gives me a little bit more when I'm working with my zipper, when I decide where I'm going to put that zipper also. I might actually put my zipper in one of the side seams underneath along here. So, but when I finally decide exactly where I'm going to put that I'll make sure I have extra that I can do my turn under. I did measure my mannequins from the base of her neck to her waist, and this particular pattern says that this finished neckline here is 13 inches from the base of the neck, and my mannequin is 15 inches from the base of the neck to her waist. So from here, there's about 2.5 inches. I'm going to shorten the waistline here by just 1/2 inch. Sometimes it may seem a little trivial, but it will affect the fit of the outfit if we don't do that. Because I want it to be really fitted in the waist, then I'm going to need to make sure that this detail falls right at her waist. So I'm going to start with that, and I will check in after a couple of minutes. I just had an idea that I'm going to try. Normally when I'm letting out and adding extra to a garment, I would actually, let's say for the front piece, I do want to add an extra 1/2 inch to here. So I was going to mimic this line down and then kind of taper off into the waist, because I'm not going to add any more into the waist on the front piece. So I thought, instead of me redoing that and keeping sort of the integrity of the pattern, I also like to say, why reinvent the wheel? I've decided I'm going to cut my pattern piece and adjust it over like I want it to, with the 1/2 inch at my bust like this. And I'm going to repin that, and I'm going to cut along this line here, 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 here. And I've added my extra into the bust that I've wanted in the front. Because it's only 1/2 inch, I'm not concerned about that. Because I need the extra, I'm not concerned about changing this point, because it's still, I need that extra depth to fit my model. so I know everything's going to fit into place. And if I have to tweak it after, I keep in mind this is just my muslin, so it's just an idea that I thought of that just now. I've never done it this way before, so I'm going to give it a go, and we'll see how this works out. For my back piece, what I have done was I've extended an extra inch out in the center back. That will give me extra in my waist and give me some seam allowance. And like I said, if it's too much, this is my muslin. This has a very deep V back. I took my center line to the top, and this is where the shoulder point is. I'm giving it a bit of like a scoop in the neck, because I want to make a high back here for my muslin, because I'm going to totally reshape this. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting my back with a center back seam, because my back is going to be asymmetrical. So I need to make sure that the back is one whole piece. It's going, like I said, I'm going to have my zipper on the side seam. So I'm going to make sure that this seam falls on a fold so that I can get my left and my right, and then I can do the design that I'm looking to do. I want to talk about patterns and what markings I put on my patterns. So you can see this is my back and this is my front. Both of them were cut out on, like I said, a fold, because I want to have an asymmetrical back. For my darts, I did mark all 4 of my dart points for sewing. Sometimes what I will do is I will draw a line down the center of my dart and then just do the side that I'm going to sew on, and that'll be my fold. Or I don't even really need to draw a line. When I fold my material at the dart point, right in the halfway of the dart, then when I do my sewing, I only have to connect these dots. So just a little tip of something that I do to make sewing a little bit quicker. As for this pattern piece, I know this is my back and that's my front, so I do not add these notches, just because I know that's my back armhole. Typically when shaping an armhole, you can, and now I'm not going to get in an argument about positioning sleeves and everything. Typically I may put the back and the front armholes in for sleeves, but this doesn't have a sleeve, so I'm not concerned about that. And the same with my front piece. I know this is the front because it looks so different than the back. There's really no distinguishing, so I don't even bother with those. I will add my point here for my bust dart, and I will put a little snip right here and here. So when I fold at the point here, connect these two when I fold them, I don't have to draw these other lines because I'm just going to sew in a straight line. The front dart's a little different. It actually has been requested to be cut out, so I did that. So now when I mark my bust point here, fold my material in half, I'm going to be sewing on my 5/8 line anyways, which is going to make my dart into the position that I need. So just a little tip, saves a little bit more time, and there's a good chance that once I get this all in anyways, I may be adjusting everything to fit the mannequin better. So just do keep in mind that if you're doing a muslin in the beginning, that don't get stressed over all those points this early in the game. Any mistakes, any changes are going to be made with this, so when you cut out your good material, you're going to know exactly what you're doing.